And by the way, before we actually start, since we're going to kind of end the service very quietly, I want to thank several people. First of all, Christine Lietman and Shia Young are back there and have been there for quite some time today. We've been having some sound problems, which apparently we still have. And Jory Yarmoff is actually remotely from his home working on the sound as well. So he was not able to come in today, but he's doing this from home. So I want to thank them. They've been trying really, really hard to get this thing to work properly. And it's a very complicated system. So thank you so much for doing this. And for Shia, you want to show you guys over there? There is a camera that can swing around and show you them. There's Christine and Shia. We see a little piece of his face. Okay, thank you so much. And then, of course, Elliot. We're so glad to have you here. Elliot will also be doing the service on Friday. So thank you so much, and thank you all for being here.
This is a version of Ani Ma'anim, Ma'amin, that came to us through Elie Wiesel. And it's a version from Visnich. And I sang in a choral version of this with Elie Wiesel conducting at Carnegie Hall, and had the opportunity to do a few other things, a concert of songs that he grew up with, and I was in the chorus for that, which is a great experience. I'll be singing a different version of it a little later in our program. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shalema bevias hamashiach. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shalema bevias hamashiach ve'af al pi she'yitmameha achake lo bechol yom sheyavo ve'af al pi she'yitmameha im kol zeha achake lo sheyavo.
Tell us what that means, just so people don't have the words.
It's, I believe with all my heart in the coming of the Messiah, and even though he may tarry, I will wait each and every day for his arrival.
So we're on page 75. We begin with silence, the silence of death, the silence of life, the silence after destruction, the silence before creation. There are times when songs falter, when darkness fills life, when martyrdom becomes a constellation of faith against the unrelieved black of space about us. There are no words to reach beyond the edge of night, no messengers to tell the full tale. There is only silence. The silence of Job, the silence of the 6 million, the silence of memory. Let us remember them as we link our silences into the silence which becomes a prayer, which links us with the past, touching that darkness we cannot fully enter. The anguish, which is memory and love and life and death. And we'll just take 1 minute of silence.
be silent. Dead are growing here. They were planted by the tyrant. See their bloom appear. All the roads lead to Ponar now. Our pain callous people never understand. Seas and oceans have their order. Prison also has its border. Our torment is endless.
That wasn't in your program. It's just an added piece. Jordan is going to read the next piece on page 76.
Silence leads to memories. Memories become words. Words become images. The world of Eastern Europe rises before us. Thousands upon thousands of little children learning Torah, homes in which the Sabbath candles burned, streets where walkers argued points of law and where the outside world was far away. There was poverty and lack of vision too, but there was a depth and a greatness which we have no longer, and we weep for what is lost. And there was Western Europe, where Jewish life had flowered into a golden period of creativity. Scholars, poets, merchants, artists, and musicians joined ancient and modern visions in a joyous celebration of life. The world had a special glow, and genius resided within that Jewry. Then creation was followed by destruction. There was the Sephardic world as well, a pious culture, a quiet and enduring way of Jewish life, 1,000 years of scholarship, of family life and joy. In Athens and Salonika, in the Melah, and on the isles of the Mediterranean, Jews prayed to God and trusted their neighbors. And that world also ceased. Darkness covered the Jewish world. Fire burned the books and the buildings. Night and fog swallowed up the people on their way to death. We weep for them. We yearn for them now. We reach toward them through the stories of lives by reciting names: Chava, Sarah, Ezekiel, Yehuda. Their names, their lives are intertwined with ours. They are part of our collective memories, of our history. The Warsaw Ghetto alongside the walls of Jerusalem, the musicians of Auschwitz, and the still harps at the waters of Babylon, the murdered temple singers, and the children of Terezin. They speak to us softly from Baba Yar and from the transports.
Susie Copel is going to light our first candle.
I light this candle for my parents, especially my father, who had an uncanny feeling that things were going to happen and who took us from country to country, one step away from the camps. I light this candle for the 6 million Jews who perished in the camps. Among those were my maternal and paternal grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins. And I light this candle for my wonderful husband, who put up with my occasional bouts of depression. And I light the candle for those French citizens who were willing to hide us for as long as they needed to, at their own risks. Had they been caught, they would have been sent to camps also. And I light this candle for Ukraine, for all the citizens. And please, God, make an end of it. Thank you.
Sandy, you're going to come up and read. Page 77.
Written in pencil on the sealed railway car. Here in the carload I, Eve, with Abel my son. If you see my other son, Cain, son of man, tell him I... Silence, only silence, waiting for our reply. All of them waiting. 3,300,000 Jews lived in Poland before the war. 2,850,000 Jews lived in Russia.
More than 1 million died.
1.5 million Jews lived in the Balkans and Slavic countries.
More than 1 million died.
In Germany, Austria, France, and Italy had 650,000 Jews.
Half of them died.
Rhodes and Cyprus had happy, thriving congregations.
Synagogues stand
Empty now.
Our brothers and sisters were murdered everywhere in the days of destruction.
They died in cities and towns, in villages and fields.
They died in the night and the fog. They died between dawn and dusk.
They died by fire and water, by poison and gun.
They died alone, but we will not forget them.
They died alone, but we will not forget them.
We will remember them in reverence and in silence.
And let's take a moment of silence.
Song of the Partisans. You must not say that you now walk the final way, because the darkened heavens hide the blue of day. The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here. The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here. You must not say that now you walk the final way, because the darkened heavens hide the blue of day. The
The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here. The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here. Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst den letzten Weg, wenn Himmeln bleien, verstellen bleie Tag. Kommen weit noch unser ausgebänkte Show, Sveter prägt on unser Trott mir seinen do. Kommen weit noch unser ausgebänkte Show, Sveter prägt und unser Trott mir seinen do. From land all green with palms to land all white with snow, we now arrive with all our pain and all our woe, where our blood sprayed out and came to touch the land. There our courage and our faith will rise and stand, where our blood sprayed out and came to touch the land. There our courage and our faith will rise and stand.
Ruth Geller, would you like to come up and light the second candle?
I light this candle for my beloved parents, my father, my mother, who saved our lives with the help of many, many people as we went along the way. I light it for my grandparents, my uncles and aunts that died, again cousins. My mother tried to take them out of Poland, but they thought nothing would happen. And I also light it for the survivors of Auschwitz, both my aunt, Sala, who was a horse in Auschwitz, survived, and then came and insisted that we go to Israel to meet our surviving cousins. And my cousin Svi Bar-Lev, who was an amazing man, 60 pounds at the end of the war in the Death March, ended up in Cyprus, finally in Palestine, in Israel, went on to become first secretary in London and Sweden, most amazing people. And I light this candle in memory of the 6 million, and as Susie said, the people of Ukraine who are in our hearts right now.
And Regina is going to read on page 80.
They fought and they died. The individuals, the communities, far, far, a city lies, body still warm, bells are ringing. You have not seen a city thrust on its back like a horse in its blood, jerking its hooves, unable to rise. Bells are ringing. City, city, how mourn a city whose people are dead, whose dead are alive in the heart. Bells.
And Ezra Greenhouse is going to be reading from his home.
Reports, letters to the living, from those who fought in the ghettos and in the forests. Abba Kovner had led his people in the Vilna ghetto and in the partisan woods, and the fight for his people continued in the land of Israel. Others sent letters to God and brought them to him in person. Poets cried out their anguish. and the empty land shook in pain. Across that landscape, iron rails gave mute testimony of trains which had passed over it, of carriages seen by everyone and by no one.
Confess, O empty wagons, whence, where, confess. Now, as wagons you roll on and see the pain. Madness reverberates, mute witnesses. You know the needs and pain of every terror night. You know what happens. Confess, mute ones, where you roll, for it is death you serve. My people, my Jewish people, where have you taken them? Blinded by our tears, we cannot see. Blinded by our grief, we cannot believe. But beyond grief, beyond belief, gently, gently, there is the whisper of a night song, of an affirmation which could not be slain. I'd like to call up Lori Magnus for the third candle.
I light this candle in memory of my husband Bernd and his family, his parents and his sister, and also his grandparents and his aunt who died in the pogroms in Lutch and Minsk, and also one of his uncles who survived and went to Buenos Aires, and also for the people of my mind has gone blank. Ukraine? Of the Ukraine. May they find peace.
Mashiach, ve'olaf pi sheyitmamehu, im kol ze ani mamin, im kol ze achakelo, echol yem sheyavo.
Anima Amin, Abraham. Despite Treblinka, Anima Amin, Isaac. Because of Belson, Anima Amin, Jacob. Because and in spite of Medianek.
Dead in vain, dread for naught, Anima Amin. Pray men, pray to God, against God, for God, Anima Amin.
Whether the Messiah comes, Anima Amin, or is late in coming, Anima Amin. Whether God is silent or weeps, Anima Amin. Blessed are the fools who shout their faith. Blessed are the fools who go on laughing. who mock the man who mocks the Jew, who help their brothers, singing over and over and over. I'd like to invite up Judy Lair for candle number 4.
I light this candle as a proxy for Alex Wall, in memory of her mother and my friend Sarah Wall. Sarah was one of the hidden children who became a force of nature for telling her truth, for helping students, colleagues, and friends to reach for heaven. She left us too soon.
Our belief will lead us from the destruction to the creation. Our unbelief will guard us against complacency, against forgetting, will challenge our idolatry of little gods. A psalm by Paul Celan, let's read it together. No one needs us again out of earth and clay. No one bespeaks our dust, no one. Praised art thou, no one. For your sake we want to flower unto thee. Our belief will lead us from the destruction to the creation. Our unbelief will guard us against complacency, against forgetting, will challenge our idolatry of little gods. And I'd like to call up Rusty to read on page 83.
A psalm by Paul Celan. A nothing. Were we, are we, will we remain? Flowering. The nothing. The no one's rose. The mystery of the Ein Sof, of God who is near and who is far, who may at times be absent, is always with us. It has been said, when God's back is toward man, history is Auschwitz. Yet in every age, there have been those who still reached out to God, the mothers of Israel protecting their children, the fathers pleading with God, the Rav of Slobodka, the girls of the ghetto, the steadfastness of the teachers in the camps is Israel, wrestling with God in the darkness and prevailing.
And Rusty, I'd like to invite you to, Judy, want to come up for the 5th candle?
We light this candle in memory of Holocaust survivors who were members of Temple Bethel and are no longer with us. Lucia Ashwell, Ruth Caron, Jenny Farber, Rita Granada, and Ermi Tilton.
And by the way, one more huge thank you to Rusty for organizing the readings and for Judy for bringing these beautiful candles here tonight. Elliot's going to sing a piece that is not in your program, so just listen.
This is Zolshoin Kulum Geula. When you're feeling low, take a little drink. If sorrow persists, then let's sing a song. If there is no whiskey, we can drink water. Fresh water is life itself, and what more does a Jew need? May our salvation arrive. The Messiah will soon appear. On
gesäuert teufen Herzen macht men alle Chaim. Ob der mit los nicht ruhen, singen wir alle. Ist nicht hat kein bissel Bronfen, lo mir trinken Maim. Maim Chaim ist doch Chaim, was doch noch der Jid. Soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule. Mashiach, komm schon bald, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule. Mashiach, komm schon bald. Siz a Dorf von Kula Chayev, seid nicht kein Aronim, und von Sindelken Mashiach Gecher kommen wird. Ach, du Tatele in Himmelsbetten, Bnei Rachmanim, se Mashiach soll nicht kommen a bissele zu spät. Soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule. Mashiach, komm schon bald, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule, soll schon kommen die Geule. Mashiach, komm schon bald.
And Jason Winson is going to read bottom of page 83.
A liturgical meditation of our time. When Leo Beck came out of the black midnight of the concentration camp, he looked about at the world and at his neighbors. Many averted their eyes. They had been silent. They had been selfish, or they had followed the multitude to do evil. In the darkness of the camps, Leo Beck had not despaired. He had fulfilled his function. He had taught and he had given comfort. And in the darkness of the new world, which had to live with the memory of Belsen and Auschwitz, Beck continued to teach and to comfort his people. They say that when Beck lifted his hands and spoke the priestly benediction, the congregation felt very close to the divine presence. May the Lord look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. These words took on new meaning for the worshipers. In ancient times, the image of one Babylonian god was a clay furnace. When the fires of human sacrifice burned high, the eyes of the idol glared death upon the onlookers. To see God was to die. Biblical Israel transformed the terror into awe, and fear became love. In God's light, we saw light. But in our days, the world grew dark again. The pagan furnace roared, and Israel ascended into the sky as smoke. And we who are alive wander across a darkened landscape, fitfully illuminated by burning idols, in which some exterminate their human kin. We need our teachers, those who died for the sanctification of the divine name, and those who lived to guide and comfort us. They tell us that the encounter with God can take place in the utmost darkness if we are ready for it. The blessing that shone through Leo Beck can touch our lives. May God look upon us and give us peace.
I light this candle in memory of both my mother, Nicole, and of Bob Sirotnik's aunt, who, as it turns out, it's almost hauntingly, eerie that his aunt and my mother ended up in Auschwitz at the same time. Don't know if they knew each other. We just figured it out once I came to Temple Bethel. They both worked in an area called Canada, which was a place where people sorted through the clothing of the people who were being killed. And that's really how my mother survived, and I take it probably Bob's aunt survived as well, because people would sew things into the lining of their clothing, and so they would find money and jewelry and things like that, and then trade them with the guards for more food, which of course makes absolutely no sense. Why would the guards do that instead of just taking? Maybe they were good people, I don't know. Interestingly, in the film, she says that she was told to go to the hospital if she wasn't feeling well and that she thought she would die, but actually my mother was in the hospital at Auschwitz for quite some time. She had hurt her foot doing some work on a road, and they kept her in the hospital for like 2 months or something. So, you know, nothing made any sense. So I light the candle for those two women. I believe Bob's aunt's name was Ruth. And of course, all the people who perished in their families, because my mother was the only survivor in her family. Of course, Bob's mother survived as well as his aunt, but so many were killed. And of course, we hope that we learn from history and we say never again, and here we are with the situation in Ukraine almost. I mean, there are kids who are being shipped to Russia, separated from their parents and being shipped to Russia to be re-educated, and women being raped and told, you know, I don't want you ever to have sex again, that's why I'm raping you, because we don't want you to have a Ukrainian baby. And it's just horrendous, and I don't understand why we can't learn anything from history. But we have to follow in the footsteps of someone like Edith Eger, who, you know, never gave up hope. And one of the songs you sang was about the Messiah and Geulah, which is, you know, redemption. We have to believe in that, otherwise, you know, we might as well not continue. So we have to believe in it and we have to work for it. And the more light we can shine on the world, hopefully the more we can stamp out the darkness that's out there. And that's all we can try to do.
Yamenu kekedem, Chadesh Yamenu kekedem.
Please join me on the bottom of page 84. Return us, O God, to our task and to our people. Renew our days as of old. Bring back the time of creation. Return us to our neighbors, to those who have suffered with us, to those who still live in darkness, to those who need our help. Return us and renew us. All of life is return and renewal, is creation after destruction. Akiva walked alongside the Temple Mount and saw the jackals playing among the ruins. And he sensed a divine plan of darkness and light, of a land to be restored, of a people to be returned to God. Our survivors belong to the company of Akiva. We honor and revere them. We are their students. How can we feel what they feel? How can they know what they know? All we can do is to take their silence, and we can take their words, and interweave past and present, present and future, and we can pray and hope. 6 million names come to us out of the destruction. In a world where there was no compassion, we turn to the God of compassion. They are bound up with our lives. May they be bound up in the bundle of eternal life among the holy and the pure, who shine so brightly in the firmament of our lives. And I'll ask you to rise if you're able for El Male Rachamim.
I just wanted to mention that this version of El Male Rachamim was sung to me, especially for us, by Cantor Jacob Mendelsohn in New York, who's one of my mentors. And I learned it from him, and you are the first to hear this version of this.
El male rachamim, shochen b'maromim, hametzei menucha nechona, tachat kanafecha shechina, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מסהירים. לנשמות 6,000,000 אחינו ואחיותינו שמתו על קידוש השם, ינוחו בשלווה ובשלום, שלא ידעו בחייכם בעל הרחמים. הסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרר בצרר החיים את נשמתם, אדוני ונחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר
God, full of compassion, whose presence is over us, may the souls of our 6 million dead who have gone to their everlasting home with the holy and pure on high, who shine as the lights of heaven, find the safety and rest denied them on earth beneath the shelter of your presence. Master of mercy, cover them in the shelter of your wings forever, and bind their souls into the gathering of life. God is their heritage. May they be at peace in their place of rest. And we say,
Amen.
Be seated for a moment. Creation follows destruction, and destruction follows creation. We lit 6 candles tonight to commemorate our dead. Soon these candles will flicker and die and return to darkness. Soon we begin to forget. We must not let this happen. Let us kindle lights when we go home. There are yahrzeit lights out there. Please take one. And let us recite the prayer of praise, which the poet intertwined with the memory of suffering. And we're going to say Kaddish. And Elliot, if you could lead the responses on the microphone, that way people at home will be able to hear better. And we rise again. Yitgadal,
Lodge,
V'yitkadash,
Gur,
Shemei Rabbah,
Warsaw,
V'almad Yivrach Yehutei,
Bogdanov,
V'yamlich Malchutei,
Ravensbrück,
B'chayachon u'v'yomechon,
Vilna,
U'v'chol Chayei de Beit Yisrael,
Treblinka,
V'agala u'v'zman kariv,
Chelmno,
V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam l'olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach,
Belzec,
v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam,
Buchenwald,
v'yitnaseh v'yithadar,
Sobibor,
v'yitaleh v'yithalal,
Majdanek,
Shemei de Kudashah b'richu,
Mauthausen,
le'ela,
Baba Yar,
mikol b'chata v'shirata,
Bergen-Belsen,
tush b'chata v'nechemata,
Dachau,
da'amiran b'alma,
Auschwitz,
Imru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Amen ve'amen. The service is finished and our task has begun. Quietly, let us go home. Please take a candle.